So when I grew up, when I was in school, and Mr. Salman Khan came out with his first film, I don't know how he's 49, by the way. We had a different kind of media. We did well in school, studying well for class 10, and your father will tell you that if you do well, you'll watch World This Week at 9:50 p.m. on Friday. This show used to go on. And it was mesmerizing because we were watching it, and then it was basically the format which looked so nice. And you saw it on Doordarshan and you said, oh my God, we can do television and we can make it look good. And one of the inspiring reasons I became a journalist was because of that kind of television which was being done. It was beautiful. It was just so different. We saw Indian journalists sitting in foreign locations on a program called World This Week. So anyway, to cut the long story short, I did college, I did my post-graduation, I came back, I started looking for a job. I realized in Delhi you can't get a job as a journalist despite the best degrees if you're not connected to someone. So went to Calcutta, worked there for 1 year, I came back. And one day I got 3 jobs. One was in a two were in a magazine. Magazines were big. So if you're starting out, straight out of college, 95, magazines are still big. Outlook just started. Everyone's saying, oh, there's this real big thing happening. I said, what's Outlook? So I went and got a job in Outlook, and I met Mr. Vinod Mehta, the great editor. Unfortunately passed away earlier this year. And then I got a job in this company called NDTV. And NDTV had just started doing local news. And they were making a program called The News Tonight on Doordarshan. And so I became a reporter in the News Tonight, and it was great. First day I went out with a camera. I said, what do you do with this camera? Because the camera person had this big U-matic camera next to me, and he was very self-important. The person with the camera treats you with absolute contempt. My first reporting assignment was in a place called 30,000 Courts. One day, outside gate number 4 of Parliament, there was a big commotion in Parliament. Again, we didn't know what the fight was about. Because forgive us our ignorance, when we're new in this business, we don't understand the nuances of politicians, what they fight about. I was standing with I.K. Gujral outside 1996, and Pranay was anchoring CPM office, new government to be formed. And I asked my person, I said, I've got a very important guest with me, come to me live. He said, who's the guest? I said, some Inder Kumar Gujral. 1 month later, he's Prime Minister of India. That's how governments changed at that time. So another politician came out of gate number 4 of Parliament once, and we asked him a question, sir, what do you think about what happened in Parliament? And the person gave a long reply, and then we all looked at each other. The person started waffling away. So we looked at each other, do you know who he is? None of us knew who he is. So we said, one of you, go who's a little politically correct. We asked this lady, so you go and ask. So she went and she said, sir, may I know your full name, please? The person said, my name is Indrajit Gupta, and I'm the Home Minister of India. And we were called soundbite gatherers, people who didn't know the basics of journalism, people who were not read. The print media really did not like us. We were unnecessary. We were not expected to be there. How can you have a 21-year-old covering Parliament? Who are these people? What do they know? And they get good salaries on top of it. But there was this excitement that we were doing something very new. Now when you look back at the things we did right or wrong, you'd realize a lot of the things we've done are simply out of that enthusiasm and excitement. When you're enthusiastic, you do a lot of things, you get a lot of things wrong, and boom, some big event happens, and then the way you report that event reflects both your idealism, your excitement, and your honesty. Your fundamentals are correct. And what's the fundamental? The fundamental is you think this country can become a better place, right? You think that if there's a politician out there, we won't do this squeamish, nice, soft interview. We believe that had to change. Because you see, it's not fun and games anymore. You begin to learn. You begin to find out. You put a reporter, the most unaware reporter, in a life situation and he will learn. Remember, students, whatever you do, whatever you may learn in a campus, one day you'll go out, life will teach you. I'm happy being in Mumbai. Delhi makes me angry. Do you have the guts to take on people when they are in power? You take it on the chin. Now, I've told myself a simple fact. I have said 20 years in this profession. What am I going to do in the next 20 years? Am I going to become a celebrity? Am I going to get more people to watch me? Or am I going to fundamentally make a difference? There are many techniques you can do to make people watch you. People tell me, oh Arnab, you do it for TRPs. What the hell are you talking about? There are ways to get TRPs. Is the only way to get TRPs to take it on the chin like we do? Is it easy to take it on the chin? Times are changing. I'm the same guy who got beaten outside Tisazari. They swatted us like flies. You understand the connection? So we say the fundamentals of journalism have really changed. And why has it changed? Because we understood the power of this thing called television. We took it in our hands. You see, television is personal. It goes right into your house. Now, coupled with social media, a story in the air is like an arrow you put out. It can't come back. And then coupled with social, the moment you do a story, there are at least 100 people there who will say, talk about your story. So I'm not here to lecture you today, but one thing I'll certainly tell you. Let me give you 5 fundamentals of what I believe. If you say media, democracy, and youth, I'll tell you 5 things which I genuinely believe will change the way media has a contribution to youth and democracy in our country. The first is, tell yourself that there is no fixed formula. You see, I'm doing something today. Is this, the way I'm doing it or what I'm doing, going to be relevant for you 10 years from now? Probably not. In fact, I don't think it should be. Change is necessary. I represent change today. I'm telling you, without being self-adulatory, I've changed the way journalism is being done. And I intend to change it a little bit more. And then one of you is going to take over. When that one of you wants to take over and tell me 10 years from now, listen Arnab, we're going to do things a little more differently, I'm not going to get possessive about what I do. Because I was told, and the first fundamental therefore rule I'll tell you is, there is no formula in anything in life, and certainly not in journalism. Journalism has got to be free. Information has got to be free. Radicalism has to set in. The Prime Minister must know what he must put free and what he must not. The Home Minister must tell us how much he has spent in the anti-Naxalite operation. You can't do things in a covert manner anymore in this country. You must declare what you've actually done. We need to know how effective Swachh Bharat has been and how much money has gone into it. We need to know every single detail. We need to know about 2G, Adarsh, CWG, Devas ISRO. And then when we have all of that information, we must have the power to confront. And then confront not the guy at the bottom of the pyramid, confront the guy at top of the pyramid. Because the formula is changing. You see, this formula that I do today will have to change tomorrow. And you're going to have to change it. Anyone tells you journalism has a few set rules, question it, defy, ask them that if the kind of journalism that say someone like Arnab is doing today has never been taught in any college or was not written in any book, then what tells you that any journalism will be relevant tomorrow? Change the semantics of journalism. So we bring, rather than hide opinion, we put opinion right there on top. That's rule number 1. Change the rules. Eat someone's lunch. See, the second thing is, connect the dots. Don't take anyone at face value. What is the fundamental rule of journalism, which will change the way journalism is done? Journalism has to stop being the gazetteer of India. You must have an opinion and you must question. You will be told when you join journalism, leave your thought behind. Leave your own opinion behind. Stop connecting the dots. They will tell you that is good journalism. They will tell you that that is right. And they will tell you that this form of journalism is bad and that form of journalism was correct. I don't believe in that. The third point which I'd like to tell you this is that see a story through. At one time I feel we pick up a story and then we drop it. And then we don't see it through. See, any good story where you're taking on a powerful person is going to end up at a moment of confrontation. People ask me, why do you look for villains? You want a villain every night so that you can bash him up? The fact is there are many villains. It's not my fault, but you pick up one villain at a time so that the emblems of what have become an acceptable villainous society are now beginning to be defeated. And this line that you said, nation wants to know, it's not my line, by the way. I had gone to a Rashtrapati Bhavan banquet. A group of cabinet ministers were sitting there and laughing, their feet up, and they say, here he comes. And then you look at it and he says, oh, what does the nation want to know tonight? That was the first time after the Adarsh scam. After the Adarsh scam that someone used the line, nation wants to know. Now, what were they actually saying? What does this line, nation want to know? By the way, I used to use the line sometimes. Nowadays, I hesitate to use it because I feel I'm doing a parody on myself. But what does this line mean? This line, basically, the symbolism of this is You have appropriated on yourself the right to ask questions for the nation, right? So the basic thing is, who the hell are you? Are you the nation? Who's given you that right? I said, this is my question. You ask your question. Let the nation decide whose question is right. The fundamentals of dialogue have changed in present day media. The third point I tell you is, don't stop fighting, because when you stop fighting, they are going to get you. This is one rule I've seen in journalism. Don't pull your punches. When you stop fighting, or you start leaning towards one side, or you get scared, or you start doing what I call selfie journalism. One magazine says, I have destroyed journalism. Some people say I've dumbed down journalism. I've simplified journalism. You can ask the questions that I ask. There is absolutely no abstract philosophy or guidance behind it. Trust me. If I put you face to face with a very important politician, you can read up half an hour on the politician. You'll ask a question better than me. That's journalism. Now, some people will tell you, you need to study a lot, find out a lot, research a lot, and then 30 years into your profession, when you are graying, you will then be able to ask the right question. I have reversed the rules. I have a channel where the news editor of the channel, controlling the entire flow of news of the channel, is a 26-year-old. That's it. That's the formula. See, the thumb rule of journalism is, don't be afraid. Most importantly for me, you can do all of this if you have integrity. We have a rule which says, don't take a safety pin from anyone in your life, because someone's going to remember and remind you about it later. So for me, the fundamental rules are simple. 1, fight the powerful, not the ex-powerful, and fight them as hard as you can. Secondly, don't stop fighting, because the day you stop fighting, they're going to get you. Everyone's looking for a weak moment. The third thing which I'd say is, connect the dots. Don't take anyone at face value, because out of the people who speak to you, 8 out of 10 are likely to lie, especially when you're doing a story. The most important thing I tell you is to change the formula of journalism on a daily basis to suit your end. There is no set way and no set formula to do journalism. And the fifth I'd say is, lose everything in life, but don't lose your integrity. Because if you don't have integrity, you can do nothing in this profession of ours. If you have a mix and a cocktail of all these 5, that we are today on the cusp of a big change in the media industry, not just in India, but in the world. I prophesize to you today that if this form of journalism which we are doing gets some roots in our society and in our country, and if the next generation is able to take it forward, if they can use the rules of the digital world to expand the horizons, if I, with the available bandwidth, I'm saying intellectual and normal bandwidth, connect the digital world to the journalism that we do, I predict confidently that we will end up creating at least about 5 to 6 global news channels in this country in the next 10 years. So my dream is that in the next 10 years, from the soil of this country, we will give birth to global news organizations that cover India from a global perspective and cover the world from an Indian perspective. And I think that's going to be wonderful and joyous. I see it happening in the next 5 to 6 years. Finally, I'll end with a little story which will tell you why I have changed the way I look at journalism. So there's this guy called Sanjay Dutt. Sanjay Dutt was going to jail. Now, that's no headline there, right? He goes to jail very often. He was going to jail and we all went crazy. So all of this is happening, and I got a phone call that day in the middle of all this on my lunch break. A person calls me and says, "That Arnab?" I said, "Yes," because the person was persistently calling. I said, "Yes." He said, "You know, Mr. Goswami, I have followed you for a long time. I just called to say I'm never going to see you or your channel or any channels again." And I said, "So what is the matter?" So he said that my friend died 4 days back, and he was just cremated in Bangalore, and his name is Colonel Vasant Venugopal. I remember this from the 5 Maratha Light Infantry. He said my friend was 42 years old. He has 2 children. He was about to take premature retirement. He did hand-to-hand combat and he got injured. He was giving covering fire to his Subedar, and he told his Subedar that you go back and get reinforcements, I'm going to fight these guys. He killed 3 terrorists of the Hizbul Mujahideen, and he sent his guys, but he bled copiously and he died on the spot. but he killed the terrorist before doing that. His body was found, he was brought back. So this guy, 42-year-old, two children, and his body was brought back, a senior most officer from Bengaluru, to be martyred. And he said that, you people are covering all kinds of things on TV, but there's not one camera from a private channel or network to cover my friend's cremation. And I felt very guilty. So I changed the news order. I got the pictures of the cremation. I invited this gentleman to my program. And I said I will lead with the story of Vasant Venugopal tonight, not Sanjay Dutt. All I need to do is to have the confidence that aaj mujhe rating nahi mile to no problem. Just tell these kids, listen, you have so much enthusiasm, so much energy, you want to do things. All I as an editor need to say that, boss, don't cover Sanjay Dutt, cover this guy. They will all use that energy towards covering that guy. They're only looking for that direction. I have never planned this career, but as I believe, life takes us through different directions. This pot boiler we call journalism today runs on just one thing, which is human emotion and gut instinct. That's all it is. I think people are scared of what this new journalism will bring to this country. Because remember, there's a status quo, and the status quo is in Lutyens, Delhi. We can change it if we just change the way where we do our journalism. So I'd like to thank you all for three things. One, your support, your criticism and your love. More importantly, I hope that you have some belief that this journalism that we are doing, which is fundamental to democracy and to the youth of this country, will go about making a long-term change in our society. I haven't learned it in any book or any college. I've learned it through my experiences, but this country can change. I think we have a great future. I'm very positive. I don't crib, I don't whine. I think all we need to do is go out there and challenge. Fundamentally challenge everybody, go with our gut instinct,